scrolling on their phone, doom scrolling and getting more and more stressed about it, and then actually making the decision to put the phone down and make a cup of tea and pick up a copy of the Swansea Positive.
So hello and welcome to the For the Region podcast. Today I'm talking to my friend Jon Franklin. Jon and I work together on a project called the Swansea Positive, and I'm really delighted to have Jon on the podcast this morning. So hi Jon, thank you for being here.
Morning, thank you for having me.
I'll let you introduce yourself really and give us the sort of founding story of the Swansea Positive, which is, well, I guess we're getting into year 2 or 3 even now.
Yes, year 3, which is crazy, and we're just about to launch issue 5, which is great. So I'm Jon. You can tell from my accent, I'm not born and bred in Swansea, but I've been here for 10 years. And I'm a bit of a nomad, so I consider Swansea my adoptive home now. I love living here. It's a fantastic place to live. So I've done a number of different roles over the years, but always based in community, always community-based roles, and working with people and in communities. And I'm passionate about community, and I'm passionate about local community. And I think where the Swansea Positive idea came from was a kind of mixture of a couple of things. One of them was I was just getting really fed up with the amount of negative news and negative headlines that were bombarding us continually. I was working with a team of fantastic local area coordinators in the council who were out in communities doing hyper local work and uncovering really positive stories about some amazing things that people were doing in local communities who, weren't well-known people and weren't setting up massive companies and big organizations, but were just doing small acts of kindness and small ideas and changing people's lives in small ways. And we were trying to share some of those positive stories. And I was also, at that time, subscribed to a couple of positive publications. So in the UK, we've got the Happy newspaper, which was printed by a graphic designer up in the north of England. And you can subscribe to that, and that talks about news from all across the world. It's all positive. And the Positive News, which is more of a kind of glossy mag positive publication. And again, that's a global, they cover global stories. And that was really, really interesting. And I felt uplifted by reading that. But what I'm really passionate about is local community. So I just thought, how would it work if we had a local publication where people could read stories about things that are happening down their street or in their location, in their city. And at the time, the council had launched their crowdfunding project. So I had a couple of weeks to put a crowdfunding idea together. Stuck it in, and then we got enough money to do it. So then that was like, we need to actually do something about it now. And that's how it started. And then in when was it? Spring 2020. Looking at the paper now, 2024. We printed our first copy, and it's been received really well.
So it's a printed thing, Jon, isn't it? It's a paper publication, and we were thinking at the time this is quite countercultural. Why are we launching a printed publication in digital age? I don't know if you want to say a bit about that.
No, completely. And we've talked with people we asked talk to people, didn't we, before in the run up to this, saying let's get some advice about how we should do this. And several of them were saying, why on earth are you printing something on paper when everybody's going online? And partly that's the reason why, we want to be doing something different. So we're proudly print only, although our past issues, now that we can say we've got past issues, are online. So anyone can find those on our website, swanseapositive.wales. But our current issue will always be proudly print only. And there's something really I think there's something really nice and special about being able to hold a good quality printed publication that's full of positive news. And so that's, I guess that's part of the slow life movement, part of the coming or pulling away from this fast digital scrolling age and thinking. I always think if we ever had money to do a TV advert, that we would have someone there standing, looking, scrolling on their phone, doom scrolling and getting more and more stressed about it, and then actually making the decision to put the phone down and make a cup of tea or a G&T and pick up a copy of the Swansea Positive and sit in a nice leather armchair and exhale and some of that stress and just sit and read some really uplifting stories. So that's the idea, and I think we just want to be doing something a little bit different from everything else.
Yeah, I think that's so important, and that message about sort of unhooking from global consumer culture and
Yeah,
digital fast-paced, digital onslaught, unhooking from that and reconnecting with what's actually happening on your doorstep in your local area.
exactly. Yes, and I think all our stories are, it's really simple. Our guidelines for our stories are simple, and they're all, we're all co-created. So, and we're all volunteers. So all our writers are volunteers. We've got writers who are, got a 16-year-old who's still at school, who's written stories. We've got an 80-year-old who writes stories, and everything in between, which is fantastic. And the guidelines are that it just needs to be based in Swansea and it needs to be a positive story. But what we hope is, through sharing all the amazingly good things that are going on in Swansea, and there are hundreds of fantastic people and fantastic organisations that are doing great things in Swansea. But we hope that when someone sits and reads that, they think, oh, actually, that organisation is just down the road from me. Maybe I'll go and visit that. Or I didn't realise that there was this amazing park, literally a stone's throw from where I live. Or that sounds really interesting. Maybe I'd like to do, something similar. Or I'd like to connect, or I'd like to set something up. So it's about helping people to connect with the positive side. And I always worry about, people who might be sitting at home and all they're reading is the Daily Mail or online news, which is predominantly negative and fear-inducing. And if that's your worldview, you wouldn't want to leave, would you? So part of this is about trying to balance that up. And I guess it's important to say that we don't see ourselves we're not putting ourselves in the position of a newspaper. We're not saying that we're journalists, because we're not reporting news in that way. But we're celebrating and communicating the positive stories in Swansea and as an outlet, because there isn't another way to do that. And there's no other organisation that's communicating positive stories in that way. And we just want to celebrate the good that's happening, and there's loads of it. We're short of a lot of things, including funding, but what we're not short of are story ideas. We get hundreds of those, and so that just shows there's a lot of stories out there, and we just want to communicate and celebrate those.
I've seen myself how the newspaper is changing people's perceptions of where we live and
Yes.
shining a light on all those positive things. I've sat in a cafe and overheard people on a different table picking up the newspaper and them not knowing that I was there, and reflecting on how much good stuff is going on, and Swansea's
Yes.
really on the up, and
Yeah.
that's the movement that we want to spark, isn't it?
No, absolutely, and it's fantastic when that happens, isn't it? That's happened to me a couple of times, and it's so it is. It's about changing the narrative, and I think we really do. I really do believe that stories change people's lives. I think we have to believe that. There's negative stories do that, and I think positive stories change lives and change communities. And the more people who do that, who sit and read and think, oh gosh, actually, I thought Swansea was going downhill, and all my friends and family think it's a rubbish place to live. But actually, look at here's some examples of some amazing things that are going on in Swansea. So it's about changing the narrative. It's about communicating and celebrating those things, and it's just a really, I enjoy doing that. It's a joyful thing to do, and but also I think there's a serious side to that, and I'm not an academic or a politician by any means, but there is an important aspect to this, which is about balancing up some of the negativity and fighting back against some of the negativity. And I think it's a countercultural thing to do, to share positive news. It's a subversive thing to do, and I think it's a political thing to do. And I think, there's a lot of there are significant forces out there that actually want us to be fearful and negative because we're easier to control. And I think positivity breeds hope, and we need hope. And I think, the more we can share positive stories, and the more that we can share hope, then that can transform individuals and communities, for the better. I love I love a quote there's a guy, Canadian, singer songwriter called Bruce Cockburn, who's a Canadian icon, and I've heard him a couple of times. I've seen him a couple of times live. He's a great singer songwriter, but one of his quotes is that you have to kick at the darkness until it bleeds daylight, and I love that. I'm approaching 60. I haven't got any tattoos, but if I was going to have a tattoo, that would be one of them. But I love that because actually it's about, that to me that sums up a little bit about what we're doing as well. We're on the top level, we're just celebrating and communicating great things, and that's a really good thing to do. But actually, there's a serious point to this as well, and you have to make an effort. You have to kick at the darkness. You have to make an effort to and it's hard work producing the paper. All of us work really hard at doing it, and we've all got other things that are going on in our lives at the same time. But it's we need to make an effort. All of us need to make an effort to be positive and to share that positivity and to influence people, positively. And also, that quote suggests that we kick at that darkness until it bleeds daylight. So it's the darkness isn't reality. The reality is there's daylight behind it. It's like there's a shroud. That that people in our culture put a shroud of darkness and negativity over the life, and actually if we just kick at that enough times, then some of the daylight and some of the hope and some of that light will shine through. And if we can influence just a few people like that, that'd be worth it.
Wow, Jon. I think those are some of the most powerful words anyone's ever spoken on my little podcast.
Oh, really?
So thank you for that. Yeah, I really was nodding along with everything you said there. That was very moving. And I think exactly that, running a little positive stories publication, it might sound like just a nice thing to do, what they do in a nice little village and sharing local updates. But as you've described there, it's actually radical. It's a radical political act. Yeah, love it. Really, really important.
Especially in the current climate, isn't it? The current political climate, we need hope and positivity more than ever. So
we need hope and positivity more than ever, absolutely. And I think when I first discovered the project, and I think that was when you'd already launched the crowdfunding campaign, and really wanted to get involved because for the region, we've always said we've got these three values: positivity, collaboration, empowerment. Positivity has always been right up there at the top of the mission for the region, for all the reasons you've just described today. And in our latest publication, which is our 5-year plan, positive news and local media is right up there as one of our missions. We believe it so strongly. We'd love to see a proliferation across Southwest Wales of these positive publications, and shining a light on all the good stuff. I mean, you've mentioned funding being a challenge. Like, that is the challenge, isn't it? Of how do we make this kind of project sustainable and viable, and I think we need to tap into funding streams because of its political democratic importance,
as well absolutely.
As the mental health benefits and the community cohesion benefits. It's really important work.
Yeah, it is, absolutely. And I really appreciate all the support that we've had from you and from For the Region for the paper, and for your stance for positivity as well, because I think it as I said, I think it's really important. But so I guess it's down to us to try and to win that argument, isn't it, or to to communicate with funders or with big companies that actually positivity and all that it means is something that's worth investing in because of that it's got a long-term benefit, and it won't necessarily have the quick return that they would like to see in the way that they invest in other things, which provides that kind of quick return, or the clicks or the likes or whatever it is. But it's having I think we're one of the issues about political and kind of business life is short-termism, and we need to have a long-term view, and I guess it's about convincing those organisations that have got the finances that actually having a long-term view about generational transformation in communities and that kind of hyper local investment is worth it in the long run, and you're not necessarily going to see the kind of return that the quick return that you might ideally want, but actually having a longer return over a bigger return over a longer period of time, or the same return over a longer period of time, is actually more ethical and more moral. And we're talking today, the Reith lectures are going on with amazing guy Rutger Bregman, who's this Dutch historian, who's talking exactly about the fact that we need a moral revolution. And it's partly that. It's partly, I guess, down to us to try and win that argument and convince people with the resources that actually positivity and collaboration is important and is worth funding,
worth investing in, and taking that long-term preventative approach, which is everything that the Future Generations Commissioner talks about, and everything we were talking about recently at the Wellbeing Economy Festival of Ideas. That shift towards moral systems, long-term thinking.
But it just takes courage, doesn't it, from decision makers. And you're right. It's the Future Generations Act. It's Wales is a world leader in having legislation like this, and yet we don't necessarily see the decisions being made to make that happen. And part of positivity and collaboration and building resources in our community is part of that. So you're absolutely right. There needs to see that.
It's an investment. It's an investment, and it will change perceptions. There's another famous quote that we use a lot. I don't know who said it, but we are the stories that we tell ourselves about ourselves, and we think that's
absolutely
true on a personal level. What are the possibilities for us locally and in our communities and in our own lives? But I think that's true on a regional level, and in terms of our economic prosperity and in terms of our future well-being. What are we telling ourselves about our places and our opportunities?
Absolutely.
So really. So we've
absolutely.
We've got a new issue coming out soon, Jon. We've decided to get it printed before Christmas, so tell us about that.
So issue 5. So it's going to go to the printers today. So it'll be out very soon at a venue near you. We distribute to all the local libraries. So if there's a library near you, then you'll be able to find an issue there, and in lots of other venues across the city. So fantastic. We've got some great stories as usual. A nice mixture of stories, positive stories about Swansea. So that'll be an ideal publication to pick up and have a read over Christmas.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it. As you say, it's completely put together by volunteers and a real great kind of co-creation team behind the project. More people joining all the time. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking you'd like to get involved, we do need all the help we can get with everything from story writing to photography to distribution. That's really key.
Absolutely.
Fundraising.
Come and join us. Come and join the team. We'd love to have you on board if you're interested in positive stories. And excuse me, I had an email the other day from a group in Newport who are looking to produce a positive publication there. They've been really inspired by what we've been doing here, and that's great. Oh, yeah, and I would love to see that spread across the whole of South Wales. And we was constantly. I had another really good bit of feedback the other day when I went to the Green fair in Swansea the other day, in the museum, Waterfront Museum. And there was somebody there running a stall here, and we'd done a story on their CSA in one of the publications, and they said a couple of weeks after it was printed, somebody they didn't know turned up at the farm with a copy of the Swansea Positive in their hand and said, "Is this you?" And they said, "Yes, it is." And said, "I'd like to sponsor you." So how cool is that? Fantastic.
That is so cool.
Yeah,
That is it, isn't it? And so there it is. It's making those local connections. People don't
yeah,
know about the great projects that are happening. And
yeah,
if we can shine a light on those, then hopefully they get more support. And yeah,
yeah,
great, good news stories about that.
yeah.
Yeah, someone with a trust fund turning up at the gate and saying,
Yeah,
I would like to
exactly.
sponsor
Yeah.
you. We, we all dream of that moment. We dream of that moment. No, that's brilliant, Jon. And yeah, I'm looking forward to helping with some of that distribution of issue 5
Brilliant.
over the next few
Yeah.
weeks and getting that
Fabulous.
into as many hands as possible. And where can people reach you? What's the website? Where should people go if they want to get involved?
Absolutely. So the website, swanseapositive.wales, that's got our previous issues in and our contact details. We're on LinkedIn, we're on Facebook, and we're on Instagram as well. So yeah, just search for Swansea Positive and drop us a message.
Lovely. Oh, I've really enjoyed our conversation today. Thank you so much, Jon.
Thank you so much for the invite.